Hey guys, Brian Bowman here for Disc Golf Examiner, and we're back with a new episode of Plastic Picasso, where we take a look at the hot stamps that make disc golf cool. And today I've got a special treat for you guys, and I went a little bit down the rabbit hole here because I did not realize how prolific of an artist we have with us here tonight, and that is Michael Ramanauskas. Please tell me I got the name right. Did I remember?
You did.
Awesome. So, Michael, thank you very much for joining us. You are out on the, west coast of Canada? Is that correct?
Yes, I am. I'm just a little bit east of Vancouver, British Columbia.
Very cool. Yeah, so you're a couple hours behind us there. And we're here to talk today about a number of things. I was really just kind of, going along with the, you have the new self-portrait disc coming out from Mike Sully Sullivan's self-portrait series. Which is a really sweet design. You guys saw that a little bit. I was playing with it in the intro there. So I was going to get you on here just to talk about that, but then I started looking at all of the stuff you did, and we had a little pre-call on. I went and did some research and stuff after that. You have done a lot of disc art. Any idea how many stamps you've done out there?
The first one was 7 years ago. Almost to the day, and
happy anniversary.
It's been at about 170 designs so far.
Wow. And that's tournament stamps, artist series.
Tournament, players, stock stamps, everything.
Wow. And how many different companies do you think you've worked with over the years? Just round about almost everybody probably, right?
It's easier to name who I haven't worked with. I've hit all the major Qs and a few of the big players too. So it's been an interesting trip so far.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of stuff out there that I didn't realize that you were even involved in. And that's my ignorance, just because back then I wasn't really looking into artists and everything. But now that I started looking, I mean, you've done a ton of stuff. I mean, obviously you're doing a lot of stuff with MVP right now. You did Sarah Hokum's signature last year with the pagoda and the serpents. What have been some of your recent works that we would know and be able to look up and ogle at and ogle at?
Some really minor ones. There was like Bendy James that came out recently.
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. MVP fans will recognize I did the Gyropalooza Alien Head this year.
Yes.
Last year, 2020. I've done some of the signature edition discs in the last couple of years, including the Reactor.
Nice.
I am so blanking.
When you have that
in the past, I've done things like, in the past, I did the 2018 Colleen Thunderbird. That was one of my bigger ones a few years ago.
I remember that.
I've done one for Miss Sarah Hokum every year for the last 5 years.
Yeah, she totally sang your praises when we met up with her at PFDO last year. The other Brian in Disc Golf Examiner bought his first gyro disc, which was one of your signature designs from her. So that was a milestone for our channel.
Nice. I'm looking over to the side here because I have this wall of stuff that I've done over the years, and I'm like trying to just isolate in my head which ones I want to pick out, but I've done quite a few. So I tend not to sign them though in a way that people recognize. So a lot of people don't know that, oh, it's me, unless it's directly stated that I did it.
Okay. So we're not seeing signatures in there, but do you hiding a signature in there? How do you, are you copywriting it with the secret?
I don't hide something, but I have like a particular style of treating certain elements that if you know about it, it's easy to tell that it's mine.
Okay.
It's not necessarily a signature per se, like some artists like Mike Insco or John Dorn, they sign or they have the little symbols. Mine's more of a use of a particular pattern type that I use that you can catching most of the ones I do unless I forget to put them in.
Ah, okay. Well, if anybody out there knows what that is or think they know, comment below. We'll see if we can American treasure our way through all of your discs. And I encourage you guys to check out the website and stuff. We'll put a link below. He's got a lot of art on there. And as you were talking about your signature style, let's talk about this self-portrait disc. First Contact is the name of it, and I gotta say, when I first saw it, I was like, yes, a starfish disc. Like I really like that kind of stuff. And I was like, why are they shooting at the starfish? Because my first impression was like a benevolent, loving hand coming down over the city. But I guess you could kind of take it either way. I don't know if that's what you were going for, but I was like, First Contact. Uh-oh, it looks like the first contact's going to be missile impacts. But tell us about your inspiration behind the disc and like how it relates to you as as an artist and a person.
Okay, well, for myself, ever since I was a little kid, I've had this huge fascination with science fiction in general, and a lot of that revolves around, my first exposure to Star Wars when I was a little kid, to reading a lot of Robert Heinlein when I got older. And in all these stories, especially in the Heinlein genre, there was a lot of issues with first contact, or a lot of the old pulp science fiction magazines, talk about first contact, what would happen, how would they interact with these alien species when there's no commonality. And so one of the things I always love to kind of like play in my brain with is what actually would happen in a first contact scenario. And with this disc, basically, we don't know what the starfish is doing. We can see that humanity's reacting. And this is a theme I've played out in more than one stamp over the years. Okay. But it's, how would humanity react if a miles-long starfish just appeared over a major metropolitan area? I think humanity as a whole would probably poop a little bit.
Yeah. We'd probably deserve whatever was coming to us.
Yeah. And so I've had a trend lately of trying to, in some way, showcase that perception. I did one years ago called The Exobot, which was about 3 years ago, and it portrayed a large humanoid robot destroying a cityscape. And I like those kind of scenes because they don't tell the before, they don't tell the after, they just tell that individual moment.
Okay.
And I like leaving it up to the viewer to figure out what they're seeing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, I totally got that from it. And that's really cool how it's like you've had this pervasive thought of first contact. We haven't gotten there yet even. So like, you know what I mean? As a little kid, you thought by 2020 we'd be flying around in jetpacks. I mean, I did anyways. So
I was promised that.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's really cool. And this is, I don't know, the 6th disc, I think, in Sully's release series, which has just been awesome for artists. I love that you guys get to just do whatever you want to do. Because you do disc art full time, right? This is your gig?
This is my day job.
Awesome.
And it is nice to be able to do a stamp where I don't have to draw a disc going into a basket.
There was a bit of a discussion the other day on the DFX Limited page on pictures of baskets on disc golf, and I said that's kind of like wearing your own band shirt to your own show, right? Like, you don't print a picture of a baseball bat on a baseball bat, do you? Like, I don't know. That's a discussion for another time. But speaking of your full,
I used to have
Go ahead.
Sorry, I had a graphic that I created a couple years ago to illustrate this point to people that would come and ask for a stamp design, and invariably once in a while you would hear, oh, why isn't there a basket in there, or why isn't there a picture of a disc? And I would show this picture, and it was a picture of a car with a car badge of a car on its hood.
Right.
Right? Like,
exactly.
So
it's very meta. It's very meta.
Yeah.
But speaking of it, so like you're doing full-time, are you a full-time employee of MVP? Or are you a freelance guy, or?
I am a freelance. Most of my contract time is spent working with MVP, but I work with numerous other players and agencies, but I'm a team player for MVP, so they kind of get my focus. But yeah,
they got you on lockdown.
My company is double. Yeah, well, almost, but yeah, I've got Double Ram Design, which is the company for the website, and so everything I do is under that umbrella.
That's awesome. And so let's talk about, as you mentioned before, Bendy James. James Conrad has signed with MVP. He's played his first tournament. We got an example back there on the shelf. I got mine here somewhere. But he's played his
second tournament.
Yeah, he's played a few tournaments. He's definitely throwing the discs good. Talk to us a little bit about the design process. I mean, every player has a signature disc. I'm sure working with every player is different. I got to hang out with James one weekend at PFDO in 2017, filming him. Just the nicest guy. Like, I felt like he was just so easy to talk to and so easygoing. I imagine the process was like that. Why don't you talk to us about how that went?
It's interesting. I'd never had any personal contact with James before this project, and I was, I had a little bit of fanboy going on because, I've always appreciated his style as long as I've noticed him. But getting to talk to him, the guy is so relaxed and puts you at such ease. Right. He makes the whole process very, very easy. At the same time, he's also fairly pliable in his opinions. Right. So he didn't really have anything that he hated per se, but at the same time, he's kind of like, oh, I could go either way. And so when we were doing the process, I showed him, like 3 different design concepts, one that we talked about previously and 2 that I came up with afterwards. And, the first one, when I showed it to him, even though it is what we talked about, the execution on the disc wasn't going to have the same impact that it did mentally.
Yeah.
And so when I had this, my brain had jumped back to like this old skateboard sticker I'd seen in like the 80s or 90s. And just about this body that was contorted to the shape of the skateboard. And I was just like, you know what? When I watch James play, the guy is so literally bendy.
Yeah, fluid.
And
like he's like a Gumby with a lot of strength or something. Like,
yeah, I described his style to him as like a blade of grass bending in the breeze. Right?
Okay.
And so I also wanted to accomplish something with the disc where I didn't want it to be necessarily oriented to one direction as much as possible. I wanted that whenever you picked it up, you could like, oh, okay, I'm looking at whatever the bottom might be. But when I showed him the original workup, his response was really like, that's weird. I like it.
Right.
And
good.
It was, for James, it was almost ecstatic. Right. And so I ran with it, kept it nice and loose and very graphical. Normally I'm very pixel perfect and vector based. And in this one, I just wanted to go a little more rough because I wanted it to be adaptable and interpretable by people in whatever way they wanted.
No.
Having said that, being on the internet, I've seen some very interesting responses. Most of them are great. Of course, when people are like, oh, I don't get it, or why isn't it just his name really all fancy? And it's like, well, this is what suited James.
Yeah, it totally fits him. When I saw it, I was like, I'm glad he didn't go with hair, and I'm glad he didn't go with the beard. Not that I don't like his hair or his beard, but like that's him. That's already his brand. How do you build on it past that? And seeing the guy take a 20-foot run up and flow 10 feet off the end of the tee and throw this crazy flip line, that twisty bendy, I totally like. I got it. As soon as I saw it, I was like, that's going to sell well. And clearly it sold well. It's hard to keep it in stock anywhere. People are getting their first discs, and obviously there's a secondary market there. But again, that's a discussion for another day, I think.
Yes, it is.
So you said you're a player for MVP. You're like on the team. Are you good? Do you have time to get out and play?
Oh, I just played today, right before this. Awesome. Yeah, I just this year, I was welcomed onto the crew team, and I talked about it last year, and I was kind of doing I've got my perfect bag set up, blah, 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 and, like, I like playing a mixed bag. Why would I change now? And then this year, it literally became, well, why wouldn't I?
Right.
Like, I've got literally nothing to lose, and having over the past couple of years introduced more and more MVP Axiom Streamline into my bag, I was like, this is a great opportunity. And not pimping the brand, but my game has not suffered at all.
Yeah.
Right. And in some ways it's gotten better. So I think if nothing else, mixing up your bag once in a while is a great concept as a player, because it'll get you to not rely on, oh, I'm on hole 9, I'm going to throw disc, whatever, the same way, the same time, every time. I think being willing to take a risk or to change up your style keeps you elevating your level of play. And am I a great player? No, I'm not horrible, but I've also got aches and creaks everywhere that prevent me from throwing it 100% anymore. So
Totally. Yeah, my introduction to MVP was totally by accident. I had found one in the bushes, and I had recently seen an ad. I think it was in a PDGA magazine. I'm like, oh, this thing says it has like a heavy outer rim. Maybe I'll like it. And I did really like it. It felt really good, and I got better as a player by switching to one brand because I went through the discs and I learned each one, and I just got better through the whole thing. So it was pretty similar there. What do you like to throw? What's your bag like? Are you like you got a huge arm? Are you a mid-range guy? I mean, I'm all about control shots because I just can't throw far. I've been playing for 22 years and I just can't throw far. It's fine.
yeah, I started playing about 17 years ago, and back when I was much more spry, breaking 400 feet was much more realistic, even with the slower speed discs. Nowadays, I break 400 on a good day, on a nice, nice flat, perfect breeze conditions. But my bag is, I don't know why I'm looking at it. It's all in my head.
Right.
But I've got a fair range of, I'm like 60-40 split between backhand and forehand. So my backhands tend to be on the more understable side, and I hyzer flip a lot of stuff. My forehands tend to be beefier, but then I really don't. The Tesla is pretty much the only thing I would consider like a fairway in my bag, and then I jump straight to mids.
Okay, yeah.
And then I've got resistors and reactors, got an entropy or two, and then it goes straight to putters. So like I like my short game. I've got a good touch, but yeah, fairways just for the most part.
Yeah, that's
maybe it's the style of courses around here, but
pretty similar to my bag. I have a Tesla and a flare, and those are barely long distance. You know what I mean? Because I can't throw; they hit the ground before before they get way out there. What are the courses like up there? I mean, is it kind of like what you'd expect, Pacific Northwest type stuff, big trees and?
We definitely have some courses around here that are very stereotypical Northwest, where you're playing an old growth forest. My home course, though, is Raptors Knoll, which was just rated really, really well on UDIS's annual list. I think the top 20 in the world or something like that.
Okay.
It's a championship level course. It's like the gold pads, like the long pads, are like 8,500 feet total or something like that.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
It's worth going to. And it's funny because the course has only been around for a couple years, literally like just over 2 years, and already it's getting attention. Like when we're able to have large events,
Right.
we get a large player base coming up north to play from the south, and we have people coming from all over for it. So
Yeah,
it's nice to have a home course that's nice.
and it's crazy how many courses are going in. I know just here in Pittsburgh, we're putting in a 9-hole like 5 minutes from my house, and we're turning an old 9-hole into an 18-hole, all of them with 3 baskets and 2 or 3 tees, and our tournaments are selling out in like 3 minutes. And I mean, Pittsburgh has a great scene.
It's crazy.
But the locals aren't getting in anymore, and it's getting crazy. We're gonna kind of put out this initiative where we're mainly need to recruit new TDs. We don't have enough TDs around here to throw an event every single weekend because that's the same 10 guys every single weekend. So yeah, it's really been a crazy growth. But what a time to be in disc golf, huh?
Well, it's interesting in our area because this is one of the more dense areas of play in Canada.
Okay.
And for the last couple of years, we have our tournaments registration online, and they fill up within minutes. Whether it's a 72 player or 144, it's the only ones that take any amount of time are like the 200 plus player caps, where you'll have a couple trickle in the next day kind of thing. But it's where I live now, we haven't had sanctioned play since beginning of 2020.
Yeah, we're struggling here too.
We still don't.
Yeah, we've got some sanctioned leagues that are getting at the time of the year where they'd start up, and I don't know. I think they'll probably do it because we've been doing rolling starts on a lot of leagues, which helps. But yeah, I can't wait to get back to it. That's all I can say, man. And
I miss my competitive play.
Yeah, I miss throwing frisbees.
The one positive is my rating hasn't dropped in over a year, so that's awesome.
Mine neither. I got 1 rated round last year, so that's how that all worked out. So, what do you got coming up here? Like, I know there are things you can't talk about and stuff. Oh, wait, I'm gonna cut this back in. We were talking about the tournaments taking like no time at all to fill up. We were doing a little brainstorming online in our group here, and we were like, how can we, incentivize and get the local folks into this? And I suggested to someone, how about like 8 documented hours of coursework, and you get a day early registration. And they tried it on one of our local tournaments, and it worked. They got guys out to do the work, and all those people, it was like 5 or 6 people, but times 8 hours, that's a full week worth of work, and those folks got like premier access to get into the tournament. So you never know.
Yeah.
Donations to charity, thing like that. I think we're gonna have to come up with something, because there's not enough weekends in the year to
or even people that volunteer during their off round.
Yeah, exactly. Spotting.
Like if you have staggered starts.
Yeah, all that stuff. So what do you got coming up this year? I know there's stuff you can talk about, stuff you can't talk about. I will say that Mr. Don Freeman, DFX himself, has allowed us to say that one of the future LTD limited monthly subscription discs is going to be by the artist yours truly here. That's probably all we can say, right? You can't say anything else?
That is pretty much all we can say, yeah, unfortunately. But I think people will be pretty stoked when they see the discs. They're going to be nice.
Awesome.
Otherwise, I've got a tour series disc for Sarah Hogan coming out sometime in the near future.
Great.
And some stuff locally, which I'm pretty excited about.
Like tournament stamps and stuff?
I don't have any tournament stamps coming up. I have a few player stamps coming up. I've got one for Christy Lee, who is Canada's FPO for Castaplast.
Oh, okay.
I've also got a couple other local players that I'm doing stamps for. And then, of course, there's upcoming projects for MVP. And I've got a list beside me of all this stuff. But yeah, most of it I can't talk about at this point.
Yeah, tell us what's coming out.
As soon as I can show it, I will.
Tell us what's coming out from MVP in the next months. Come on, tell us. Let us know.
Yeah, no.
I thought it was really awesome that they did a poll last month, though, when they showed that, these are the types of molds that are coming out in the coming months. Which one do you want next? I thought that was really cool. Steve told me that was pretty cool. That was a one-time thing, but that's still awesome that we got to pick. I don't know what one, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. The one thing I'll probably be doing, and it was a fun experience, is like when I released, when Bendy James was released, I had a couple of people ask, like what was the mentality behind the design. And so I put out a video of what my impressions were when I was going through it and everything. And it was a little bit different than, say, like how Marmoset does his making of videos, I wanted it to be more of a touchy-feely, this was the impressions. And I'll probably do a couple more of those in the future when I have a big stamp coming out, because I just, there are people that are curious about how an artist goes through this process.
That's great. I love it.
I usually don't know myself, but...
No, it's great. I wish people, I hate when people are just like, oh, hit the art button. Like, okay, here's your stamp. Like, you know what I mean? It is really hard. Even like when you view it in time lapse, you have to realize that's like 20 hours of time lapse in some of these things sometimes. Like, artists are worth their salt for sure. And I love that you are able to actually do it as a job, because, lots of artists we talk to are struggling right now. So it's great to hear that everything's working out.
I count myself fortunate that I'm working. I can work from home. And I also want to point out that when people see the art that the artists do, they have to keep in mind of all the art they don't see that doesn't make it, that doesn't cut the mustard. Because for every stamp that I make, I spend so many hours working up ideas that never see the light of day because they're garbage. So.
But that's the kind of stuff that's kind of why I started this, because I got into MVP and I quickly found out I like the stamps just as much as the discs. And I know that isn't easy. I know there's hundreds, I'm sure, in some of these runs where they're dialing in the foils and getting the line widths right and stuff. It's not just an art process, it's a manufacturing process as well as chemistry and polymer science. So it's just a really cool molding of kind of technologies that I don't know that you kind of got to be an artist in disc golf to get it, I think. But I think we're seeing more artists from outside of disc golf starting to see that it's a really cool medium. I'm trying to convince my buddy who's a tattoo artist to start doing some disc designs, because every time I see it on somebody's body, I'm like, oh, I would throw that on a disc, you know?
That was one of the most interesting things that I learned when I started doing this, because I've got a fairly long history in art. And then when I did my first stamp for a disc, I kept it extremely simple because, it was supposed to go on an Innova disc. So I looked at their criteria for how you're supposed to do the custom art. Mm-hmm. I stuck to it to the letter. And then everything after that was finding out how I could play with the pieces inside the rules, but push them as far as possible and not have stuff turn out negatively. And it's been amazing to see what you can push, how well you can work within the rule set to make sure that the machines push the foil onto the disc properly without having it all turn to hell.
I love limitations. So. I love imitations. They spark my creativity, and I think maybe that's kind of the connection of the whole thing. Well, Michael Ramanauskas, I got to say, thank you very much for your time today. We went a little longer than some other episodes, but obviously we got a lot of cool stuff to talk. I got no problem with it. We got a lot of.
I got no problem.
Got a lot of cool stuff to talk about, and just want to thank you for your time. Anything you want to say? I don't know if you. I mean, MVP's your sponsor, but anything you want to say? Tell people to go to a site, promote your band. I don't know what. Anything you want to promote? Go ahead, shout it out.
If people want to know more about my art, check out doubleramdisc.com. If you like stupid stuff and disc golf, follow me on Instagram, doubledisc.com, doubleramdisc.com.
Ram.
No, doubleram.disc. That's the one, doubleram.disc.
.org. Yes.
Yeah, whatever, .net. Anyway, but realistically, I know that there's so many different opinions and views of what we can and cannot do, but if you have the opportunity to go out and throw a disc, go smash some chains. Just have fun. That's it. That's the main thing.
What a perfect segue, because as we say here at Disc Golf Examiner, until next time, keep banging those chains.